On this episode of RC Kicks, we're building the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 4 on the DF-03Ra chassis. So let's crack on and get this special one built. Hi and welcome to RC Kicks. Right, we're going to get this chassis built. Now it's not going to take very long, it's not a super complicated one, and we kick off with the rear ball diff, which is on page 4, number 1 of the manual. So let's crack on and get it done. Now a lot of the construction footage in this video is sped up, but YouTube allows you to slow it down, so if there's any areas of the videos you'd like to watch at a slower speed, you can do. I did find quite a few aftermarket upgrades as well, so I put some of them into this video.
Hours later.
Well, it hasn't gone to plan. Basically, I've only got to this stage, it all went a bit wrong, and it's another day, and it's taken me 2 hours just to get to this stage. So what happened? Well, it turns out I stuffed up the rear diff. I'm not sure if I cross-threaded the bolt or I was just too aggressive with it. Now, I built quite a few of these and it's never really given me a problem before, so I have no idea what happened. The bolt that goes all the way through, which is an MA6 25mm bolt, and then there's a nut at the other end, and that's the clamping force that holds the ball diff together. Well, you have to set how much the clamping force is. So I was doing it up and then it went clunk, and I think I cross-threaded it or I just overdid it. Normally when you do these, you know, you get a good few turns and then it starts to get a bit stiff, but this didn't feel like that. So it didn't feel like I over-timed it, but maybe I did while I was concentrating on something else. Who knows? So just be really careful with that one. But then it got even better. When I tried to undo it, I actually rounded off the Allen key on that bolt. And the bolt sits deep inside. So then what I ended up with is a ball diff that was loose, but not loose enough for me to dismantle it. So I was looking down the barrel of losing the whole rear diff unless I could get the bolt out. So I decided to drill it out. Now this is not easy as it sits all the way down inside the cup. So what I did was I drilled through, and it took me 2 hours to drill it out enough to get it completely so I could tap it out. Luckily, when you're threading the bolt through, the only points of actual twisting force is the bolt itself. You don't screw it through the whole diff, you just push it through the diff. So once I got the head off, I could actually tap it through. But the thing that made it more difficult is behind the head of the bolt is a little bearing, which is an MA21 620 bearing. So when I was drilling it out, I had to be very careful that I didn't just go straight through and damage that bearing. But I managed to get there in the end. Eventually what I did was I ground down as much of the head as I could, and then I used a very thin drill bit to go through the middle, which I knew the drill bit was thinner than the bearing, so that I could drill through the core of the bolt, and then that's what I did, and I got it out. But oh my god, 2 hours. Now luckily I've managed to get replacement ones for these, and I've just used the front ball diff to rebuild it, which I did, and that went together no problem at all. It took me 5 minutes. For now, I set it up for tarmac, so I put the 32 tooth and the 75 tooth pinion and spur gear. I may change this down the line. I'll put the silver cam motor in. I probably will upgrade it at some point, but this car will only ever get driven on the grass in the garden really. If you're running a super hot motor, the motor in this is kind of buried into the chassis a little bit, so you might want to get some heat sinks. Now there's plenty of options to change your uprights to carbon and metal. Just shop around to find the best deals you can if you decide you want to upgrade. Yes, you actually have to drill something in this kit. You have to drill out the front and the rears. So when you put in the pinion bars, you have to lock them into place. So make sure you've got a drill bit to do that. Now this kit comes with dog bones, but obviously you can upgrade to universal drive shafts, front and rear. There's different versions available, but the Tamiya ones are quite expensive. So I put in a couple of different options in this video for you. One thing I found that was a little bit strange was the body mounts. The body mount thickness versus the actual holes that were pre-cut into the body by Tamiya are a little bit tight, so I had to ream them out to make them fit. Now there's quite a few upgrades for this chassis for the steering. You can change the actual arms themselves, as well as you can actually get an adjustable servo steering rod as well. You will need bearings. There's not bearings for the steering in this kit, which was a bit disappointing. And after a good few hours, this is what you end up with. Yes, I know I put the wheels and tyres on a bit early, but I like doing that. It makes me feel like I'm getting somewhere. Next, we're going to move on to do the oil shocks, but just before we do that, there's a few things I want to go over, a few little mistakes I made. Obviously, I can't build the front diff as I use the main bolt on the rear one, but as soon as it arrives, I'll open it up and then I'll fit the front diff. I'll do that off camera as I didn't want to hold the video up too long. I wanted to release it. A few mistakes I made as well. The uprights at the front, I had them upside down. In the manual, it wasn't too clear. They actually rise up, so make sure when you fit yours that the upright actually rises up to where the ball joint is. I did them the wrong way around. Not the end of the world. It's a quick change, so I just did that. The only other thing was in the actual spur gear, there's a little brass spacer. I missed it out, but luckily I found it because I had it left over. So I was like, what's that for? And then I went back and I found it. So that was to keep the face of the spur flat when you put the bolt on. So I went back and fitted that. They were the two main mistakes that I made. Nothing too drastic on that front after the nightmare of the rear ball diff. But let's crack on and get the oil shocks built. Now I built the shocks as per the manual. Now there's plenty of upgrade options available, but prices can get a little bit steep. The oil that's supplied worked quite well and I was quite happy with it. I won't be swapping out the oil just yet. Now I did fit a half height servo into this chassis, but you can fit a full height. It's just what I had available at the time. If you really want to, you can even get a lightweight blingy battery pin that holds the battery door in place if you so wish. And there you go, we'll call the chassis done. It's all working well in two-wheel drive form. I'm working on that. When it comes, I'll take that off and put the diff back in, and then it'll be four-wheel drive once the parts arrive. But hey, I'll do that off camera like I said, so no big deal. What's next? Well, we've got to paint up the body. Now this is all in PS1 white, so that's not that difficult. The main challenge comes when you've got to put all the decals in. You can spend a good few hours doing that, and that's what's going to come on the next episode of this build. What else can I say? Well, there was one thing that was a little bit of a disappointment, and that was it was supposed to come with all bearings, but again, Tamiya, you skimp just a little bit on the steering. It's 4 bushes where really it should be bearings. I've put bearings in this one because I had them already, but you kind of think, why do it? You know, you're talking about fractions of a pence per kit. So it was a bit disappointing from that side, being that this is a special limited run car. But hey, I guess you can't have everything. As well as it would be nice to have a motor that was a little bit more special than a silver can. But I guess people were going to drive this one, they would have then gone and put their own motor in it for when they went racing. Now, one thing, and for all the people that have stayed to the end, I have a little bit of a surprise for you. This is coming soon. It arrived today. That is finally in the UK, we get the Thunder Dragon. So this build is coming super soon. There is lots of stuff coming in all the time now as we ramp up towards Christmas. So if you haven't subscribed already, hit that notification bell because there's plenty coming. See you on the next one.